This is Everton Heru Holligan. You're watching H2P Media and the Boiler Room. Bajam Farai, Adrian Green. Thank you for joining us.
Open the button.
Yeah, you open it, man. I met him right, but you open it.
I just keep the wicket safe.
Yeah, all right, then. So let me get it started. Start the minute flip it wrong, right?
You sure the video?
You doors off? What boy?
Yeah, Harley.
Okay, you know I'm a birthday.
I'm meditating, brother.
Yeah, well, Adrian was on a meditation. She sort of be disturbed, the man, make me disturbed.
Cause you know these conversations will be stressful for me, you know. These shows, the last one we do.
Yeah.
So I gotta prepare my spirit for this one, you know.
Oh, all right.
Because you know it's the last time we discuss, you know, if and how we can handle politics in the boiler room.
Yeah, we ain't want the grandstanding as the normal thing that we see up on a platform.
And to tell the honest truth, I don't know if I could deal personally with most politicians in here. That's the truth, because I don't have a positive vibe towards politicians and the political arena. It's bad. I view the whole situation very negatively, right? And anybody who's been involved in it a long time, no disrespect to them as an individual, but for me, they're part of the
The bad experiences that you had, or really good that you...
Not that I've had, that I've observed, I've witnessed the energy that I've
because
witnessed.
you only just observe actually wrong where you live, where they're supposed to, you can go out there.
Because the thing is, I'm on the outside, right?
Yeah.
And I, from the outside looking in, I don't like what I see looking in. Right? And I don't like what hearing about what's going on. But then, nobody don't come out and say nothing, so it's always be rumor and conjecture, and you know he says, she say, and you don't know, you know. So I don't I feel as though if someone who are seasoned in the political game were to come into the boiler room, they could not be honest and open.
Yeah.
Right. About the facts that
about what they've seen and heard. Like, the game is just so dirty that they can't come out and tell you how dirty it is. It ain't transparent.
It ain't nothing transparent.
It ain't transparent. But this is the season for politics in Barbados, and you know all of us are involved, whether we like it or not.
No, right, true.
You know, it affects us.
We to elect the next officials that should govern the country.
So, what we're doing is that we are having persons in here who are not yet in the game. Who are seeking to get into the political game for the first time.
I can use that word tainted, or that's an edgy word.
They tainted yet.
I will use it. It's edgy, but I will use it.
Right. They
I will use it.
Without that is what we know as politics.
Yeah. So, and I commend them for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because as much as people talk about politics negatively, that is how the world runs. That's how we run.
Mm-hmm.
If the good people stay out, you left it for the dregs to run.
Mm-hmm.
Right, it's true.
So we're taking a chance that some of these people who coming in here for who jumping in the fray.
Yeah, jump in. Remember when they asked you a question a while ago?
Oh Lord! You give you time to think.
Right. See how we can ask you.
You give you time to think.
You have the floor, sir.
Again, I wanna start by saying, you know, this is a very good friend of mine.
Yeah,
someone who I know for a while, someone who I respect. Man, what you were going to do saying like this?
Ladies and gentlemen, Heru, you have the floor. Sir.
Heru Holligan of the United Progressive Party.
Good night.
Welcome to the boiler room, brother.
Good night, world.
Yes.
As far as worldwide.
Yes,
boiler room is worldwide. United Progressive Party, new institution. I call it a human rights movement, believe it or not.
A human rights movement?
That's what keeps me grounded within the movement. I grew up hearing and believing and thinking the same thing about politics as well. And truthfully, it was only until I heard Lynette explain what her vision is for developing democracy or improving democracy, and how she see a country as small as this but rich with people and resources within the people could transform and become a nation that is looked up to. And I kind of gel with what she was saying, building communities, making sure that you support people, making sure that you get everybody to grow and develop at the same pace. Those kind of things I liked because it fit in line with my activism, things that I've been doing for over 25 years now in all the movements that I've been a part of. So I listened and I went to meet Lynette and I listened to her again, and it was interesting for me. Like I've told one or two people, you know, I pulled up in my Subaru Tribeca and I went and I introduced myself to this woman that I've heard about all these years but never really had an opportunity to get up close and talk to her. And it was a very easy conversation, very respectful, very open, and it was like, this is interesting. And then at the end of the meeting, you know, she jumped in her old pop down, I call it pop down Toyota Corolla, and I jumped in my Tribeca and drive away. But no, I'm saying that because even for perceptions that you create of people, sometimes it's not real. And so as I emerged and got deeper into the political arena, I realized that a lot of what I was growing up believing and a lot of what I was hearing and heard people talking about as it relates to politics and politicians, I started questioning, because that's how I live my life. I have to continuously revisit my ideas. That's when people ask me, you know, I say, well, I know that I don't know enough to know, and I know that I gotta continue knowing, because if you're not in it, you don't understand it. But that don't mean that you don't have an idea. You can still have an idea. But the closer I got to it, I realized that it's something that I should have gotten into ever since, but nothing before its time, huh? When you are sitting down and putting hours on top of hours and looking at policies and reviewing policies and trying to create a way to improve the livelihood of people, in essence, that's what we do. In essence, that's what it's all about.
In essence, that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, that's what my experience has been in this movement.
But your experience is within a party which has been formed for the first time,
right,
which has never held government.
Right.
So your experience is very different from somebody who has been in the game with one of the traditional parties for a long time.
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I would have to take.
Right. I would assume so, though.
Yeah, because they may actually be doing the same thing too.
Okay.
And even as I canvass, you know, sometimes you knock on doors and you may find young people who are very antagonistic about politics, and sometimes I just have to get them into a corner. I remember canvassing a young man recently. You know, he came out dressed in his shirt and tie, so I assumed that he's part of corporate Barbados, but very young. I assume he was one of the Harrison College or one of those students as well, because he was very strong in his stance that he doesn't like politicians and politics, but he seemed very educated as well. And so I started to explain some basic things, and you know, even though you may think that, because you know that's the common thing, they don't do nothing. But truthfully, that's not absolutely true. You know, if we're being honest with each other, you're looking at, you know, you're looking at, you know, education, which they consider free, but it's not free. You know, these are things that are taxed. And if you're sick, you can go to the hospital and get taken care of. You may not get taken care of immediately, or you may have to wait a day or two in some cases. But there are institutions that are in place as a result of politics that looks after the well-being of people. I'm not saying that there are not flaws and faults, but I'm also saying that there was a time in Barbados, sorry to run it, there was a time in Barbados where you used to hear about contractors, people overseas who send in money to get things built, and contractors will run away with their money, or, you know, spending money inappropriately. And then you always hear about lawyers who do the same thing. So this is the same society that the people who are politicians come from. So if you have mediocrity, and if you have, you know, corruption and dysfunctionality within the society in general, then you may find some of that within the same political arena, just as much as you can find it at a regular business that you're going, whether it's Price Gouging or something like that. So what's the difference between these people? The only difference is that the public elect them and they're supposed to have high morals and standards and run office. And I would say I can only refer back to the institution that I'm a part of, which has allowed me the opportunity to rethink the other institutions as well.
So you're saying that you have a better view of the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party?
I can't say I have a better
view
of them. I can say that I am a bit more tolerant in processing or revisiting how I would have seen these institutions before, even though I would have had challenges. You know, I grew up in the hustle, in town, selling books and that kind of. That's how I emerged back into the society after I came home from the States. I was on the street selling books and you know, talking to people about health and that kind of stuff. And, you know, I used to see police come and they mess up the whole vending space and, you know, stop people from vending and stuff. And that used to make me angry, you know. So there are things that I've seen in both administrations that would make me wholesale say, these people ain't about the people. But is it really true? You know? And I'm willing to actually explore my own personal feelings about this. And given that I'm in this institution right now, where I see young and older people who are wise and smart, sit down for hours and invest in seeing how things can work better in our country, I feel like we take a beating that in some cases politicians deserve, but in a lot of cases we just need to be more discerning with how we critique, because it ain't easy work. I realize that it can't be easy work when you have to run an entire country, you know, and you have people saying this is not the way to do it, this is the way to do it, and then you have to employ from the same group of people that we say, you know, whether it's the civil service or whoever it is, that the same people who were born and raised in this society, who come up within this society, and things don't work the way it's supposed to work in some cases. You know, it's
so for me, looking at it, I always say this: what I see is politicians. I think rather than just winning the vote and then you're escaping in the far beyond, I think a lot of them going to do a lot of revisiting to the same neighborhoods year or months after months after months, so having an office there. So a lot of them is just disappear, and that's been something that's been going on years after years after years after years.
Right.
Now you know coming in, are you going to be any different than previous?
There are some entrenched ideas and thoughts that the public is infested with, and I believe that it could be because of the you know, these institutions have been around for a while, and a lot of times, as I be a bit more discerning, I can see a lot of technology in the application within politics as well. Like, for example, you will hear all the time, well, you know, my party ain't in power, so I can't do nothing. The people, the electorate will literally tell you this. Well, he can do nothing when he wasn't in power.
I actually hear that today.
So those are things that I would like, that I feel needs to be dispelled. So your position that you have politicians who literally, once the elections is over, in most cases, as I know and as I've heard, you don't see them. And because of how these older institutions have been entrenched, I would assume that people will follow along the lines of what used to happen before within the institution, within whether the other two older institutions. So when I got involved, I recognized that given the time that we're in right now, it can be business as usual. In order to create in order to lead the country out of the crisis that it's in, you cannot have politicians not being on the road, not being in the trenches, not creating opportunities for young people, you're talking about having an office, but in most cases, your office is just really going to be there, but you need to be on the streets. You need to be where people are and fishing them out, or you need to have direct linkages to people who are in the streets to help fish out the geniuses within our communities to help propel the society. So it can be business as usual. I know that's what has been happening. I don't support it at all.
So, but that's my point. And I agree with you 100%. It can't be business as usual. So while I hear you defending the usual politicians, you're also saying the usual politicians have dropped the ball. Or is that not what you're saying? Or are you saying the ball changed and let me just know what to do with it? Let me know what to do with it. So that's what you want to UPP.
I'm still stuck at me defending politicians. I know how that
You
happened.
You have been.
No, I think what I've...
That's how it sounds at
That's
least.
what I've highlighted is how my personal experience has been transformed, and being that I recognize what has to go into the work, I am not saying that, and I did say that this is how it's been entrenched based on the two older organizations, but it can't continue. So I can't defend them knowing where we're at. And I'm not defending them because they didn't do the work initially either. I'm just saying that I recognize how this thing, it really unfolds, and I choose not to be a part of the movement where we're just going to criticize without having a better understanding. But criticism is needed.
You think that the people that criticize don't have a good understanding?
I think...
And if you don't,
I think some people do. I don't think everybody does.
Okay.
I don't think I did.
Of course.
Yeah,
Not,
I don't think I
not
did.
everybody who has a criticism will have a good understanding.
Right.
But that don't mean that the criticisms are valid. Are not valid.
So what I'm trying to say is, for you to say that politicians have done nothing is not absolutely true. While I understand
man,
it
we
within
know
context,
how Bajans is taught,
but I
man.
understand-
Bajans is say, man, you never do nothing for me. You never do nothing.
But you understand.
Yeah.
You
You
understand
understand how
the
people is taught, though.
I understand how people is taught, but I understand the impact on the young minds.
Right.
And how it affects the young minds. And it's not absolutely true. And I think we need to be a bit more correct in how we process information and how we pass on information. Right? And again, this has nothing to do with defending. This have to do with progress and looking towards the future. If you're saying the people ain't do nothing, but yet still there's so much that has been done, it's unfair.
But when a Bajan tell you that somebody ain't do nothing,
You talking about
they
the
may do
Bajan?
nothing.
Listen, I am walking the streets with young men who know nothing so much about what really goes on behind closed
But
doors.
you know why that is? You know why that is?
Yes.
The reason for that is that's the nothing that the politicians didn't do in terms of educating the public and creating a political atmosphere where.
So while I agree with you, you see, this is the thing. We can agree, but I can also have a diversion, a position to that agreement.
I'm trying to understand the diversion.
Yeah? So we have a society in general that have challenges.
Right.
It was birthed out of colonialism and all that stuff. There's challenges within the society. So we also have other professions that drops the ball.
Right.
There are teachers who drop the ball. There are principals who drop the ball. There are officers in the public service who drop the ball.
Ma, you making
There
me
are
nervous now, Heru,
No, but
man.
I'm saying the
But
truth.
you know, there's consequences as well.
You making me
dropping that
nervous.
ball.
And then there's the leaders who drop more than balls. So I'm just saying to you that while you criticize here, if you're not discerning enough to recognize that the entire society has dysfunctionalities that also needs to be checked, then we're not being fair.
I can agree with that, right?
We're not being fair.
I can agree with that.
No, I'm not saying don't knock on politicians because they need some whipping.
But I nervous. I tell you why nervous, because you're not speaking as a citizen, average citizen now. You are speaking as a potential leader of this country, a potential member of parliament, right? And that's all.
As well as a citizen.
You're an ordinary citizen no more. You had to say that.
You're making me
man,
nervous. You're making me nervous, boss. You're making me nervous.
Let's around this time, politicians mouth be sweet like molasses water.
Because when I listen to our politicians talk, especially in the last 10 years, what I have
Is
been
it don't
hearing is
blame
that
me?
kind of talk. Don't blame me, man. I want to bad too.
Correct.
Man, listen.
Wanna got some blame? Wanna got somebody blame?
You know, a lot of things got changed. I want to need to pull up one of the socks. The country this, the people this.
Adrian, you know I'm mental health.
Yes.
Right? You know that I've been seeing clients and I see hundreds and hundreds of clients.
Yeah.
And I see clients who have all types of issues. And in addressing issues, you don't always get the clients to follow through on what they need to do.
Right.
Am I to take all that blame?
you
That's a matter of health.
I
It's a
can
matter
jump
of
in
life.
here.
No, but seriously,
You can't. But that's what we said. We're not saying that. Like,
right, good. So
you're
let me move
supposed to
on
carry
now.
all
So,
the
so,
blame.
so for me, I think we need. I don't think we've done enough justice in creating balance within the conversation. So what we do is we propel a situation where the younger minds are not nurtured enough to a better understanding.
that ain't got
And that has-
nothing. That
but
ain't got
you can't
nothing.
have- you
Why
can't
you
have-
making me vex?
I want you to get vexed because you can't have 30 people manage 300,000 people and expect the 30 people.
That ain't got nothing
is
to
their
do.
job.
That ain't got nothing to do with the tone of the conversation. You got politicians in this country that is going to communities and give people things
Yes,
for votes.
yes,
Right?
yes.
And then you got people from the private sector and people from all over telling Bajans, man, the problem with Barbados is that Bajans feel
above.
entitled.
Yes.
I want to live in above what I mean.
But just so you,
and
we got a
just
prime
so-
minister
we-
that
just
tells
got a
people
prime
to
minister that
accept.
people to
Just
accept the
so
potholes.
accept.
Just so
Set
you are aware,
rights.
I am not disagreeing with anything you say.
But I know you're not, right?
Good.
But I think that you're pointing in the wrong direction.
No,
You're
I'm
in a
not.
dangerous
No, I'm
direction.
not. I'm not pointing in the wrong direction. I'm trying to say that while I agree with you, here is something else that is really spoken of, which can also, and because it's really spoken of, it also helps to mislead the future.
I understand though.
That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate that you want
No.
to raise the tone of the conversation.
Let me throw some lashes.
Okay.
Because lashes need to be thrown. Otherwise, there won't be so many different
Beat them,
political
but don't kill
institutions
them.
now. No, a lot of them need beating.
You know why I can
No, I said
appreciate what
beat
you're
them,
saying?
but don't
Yeah.
kill them.
Why I can appreciate it, because it's like when we had Marsha Keller from the BLP on the last time, you know, and I can appreciate what you're saying because I felt at the time too that I really didn't want it to turn into a DLP lashing conversation, even though I believe the DLP deserve a lot of lashes.
Yes.
I understand. You want to raise the level of conversation, if I get you correctly.
We want to be honest, which is something that you always would talk about.
Fear.
And fear. And I would like for the lashes to share because the public need to share the lashes and they need to get beat. But we also need to know how we transform now out of this state that we are in. Are we prepping the minds of young people to see this institution of politics the way it should be seen, and then nurture those minds who are coming up now to be future leaders, for them to realize what their role and responsibility is? Because that has not happened with the current leaders that we have. They're there, but I don't feel as though they've been nurtured the way they needed to be nurtured, so they know what their true role and responsibilities are.
Can we upgrade the educational system so the youths can understand that there need to be changes? Because we stuck in the same cycle. They're learning the same thing over and over. Politicians repeating the same thing over and over, and that's what keep ending up at. They gotta go beyond that point. They gotta pull past that point, whereas that everybody could get them share the work done. Instead of keep saying, like, for instance, this is what some of my brothers and them be saying, let's work from a lot of minutes coming in short. So you only gotta mention something political. Like, yeah, somebody knew so and so, oh, but you know, like, but what is often here is, as more often here, more bad than good.
And it's necessary
You see,
sometimes.
we
but
could
we
put it
have
as
to.
negative and positive. You see a lot of negativity towards
Yeah.
politicians, and then really got to take off that cloak.
Yeah, and
It's
so
a
so
problem.
so
It's a
so so
problem.
it's
It's a
true.
big problem.
So when I started this movement, I had to rationalize it in my head. I had to tell myself, you know, this movement for me, because I didn't want to use the word politician, you know, and I'm still playing with it in my head, but it's really. I used to say to myself, I said to people and say to myself, you know, should I win my seat, I would be a paid community activist, right? That was my own rationalization for wanting to do this. I have an opportunity to be on the ground, to impact the lives of people. That's something I've been doing for over 20 years now in my professional field and otherwise, impacting the lives of people. Now I have more time, energy, and effort to be on the ground and know what people need, and also create programs so that people can be better, so we can build big people. which is what actually is the fuel for the economy, the fuel for, reducing crime, the fuel for building strong families. That's what it is, building big people. So if you are on the streets, on the ground, on the blocks, working with creating opportunities, developing programs for people to see their true potential, and to help with nurturing parents, and so they can understand what they now need to pass on to their youth. And this for me was all based on understanding history, who we were, what we have done before, and what we now can do. So for me, that's where I am at with this. But now I'm moving forward to being more comfortable using the word, because it's a cop-out, and I recognize that we have done a disservice to our own people in many different ways, and we need to really change that. So the education system needs to be upgraded. Totally.
So I hear you. If I understand you correctly, you're trying to keep my cool.
You don't have to do it, Adrian.
No, I have to do it. I have to. You're my brother. I want you to be my brother when we left here.
Change.
So you entered the political arena with misgivings about politics and politicians, and you had to try and rationalize in your mind and distance yourself from that image that you had of politicians. And now you're saying to yourself, there has been some good done in the name of politicians and in the name of politics, and there's no shame for me, meaning you, to get involved and to step in, because you do hear a lot of people saying, "No, I ain't getting in there, but that's too filthy. Right. I ain't getting involved with it."
But then you get good people with ideas, people who are brilliant, who run away from the institution.
Right.
And then you don't get the necessary changes required
if the good people run
away from the institution. And if we continue to perpetuate that it is such a bad thing when it really isn't in reality. It's
or
how
it doesn't
you manage.
Have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be correct.
Right.
It's about managing the affairs of the people within the nation and ensuring that everyone in the nation have an opportunity to progress and develop to their fullest potential. That's what the institution of politics ideally should be. And we don't want good people to run away from the institution, otherwise we can be stuck with people who are opportunistic, people who are connected to a particular party, and because they're connected and they follow and they chase and they, eventually they become a candidate, but really have very little depth of what they're going to impart on the people, other than creating this parasitic type of relationship, which is what you talked about earlier, where, they run in the neighborhoods and they spend this amount of money or pay out this or, or create this corned beef and biscuit culture, which is something that I grew up with. And hearing about, and I know when the politicians come, because you just go to your shop and the drink's free. And now I'm going to shops, and because I at the shop, man telling me, "Man, you go buy saying, I don't buy drinks." That's not why I'm here. I'm here. Let's have a conversation about parenting. I buy books. I want to have a conversation about how you should treat your partner, how we should treat our children. That's the conversations I want to have when I get to canvas and when I go on blocks. But I can still hear you.
Watch this.
This is where we need to go.
See without response.
You be shocked. I get respect.
There's actually more.
I get respect for that response.
But you're not respecting the vote.
Huh?
You're not respecting the vote.
That's cool, but that's all right, because I got to see ahead. I can't just see no. So if I don't get this vote no, that doesn't mean that I can't continue to build relationships with the people that I've already started to build relationships with. So my intent is not to create and continue to foster this negative relationship, which then demoralizes the society. So if it means that I don't get a vote, fine. But it doesn't mean that I ain't gonna come back here and I ain't gonna sit down and I ain't gonna slam some dominoes. I ain't gonna have conversation about growth and development and upliftment. It doesn't mean that I ain't gonna come in and say, okay, well, I somebody just messaged me about work here. I know that from canvassing you, I know you're a plumber, I know you're good at this and I got this here to do, or I know somebody I got this to do, here's what this is. But we gotta literally up the thing. That's the truth. And so that's how I've been canvassing, that's how I've been working. And people would say to me, well, you got left hand. I mean, some blocks, man, tell me straight up, but you know the man want drinks. I don't buy drinks. I ain't got no money for drinks right now. Man, you living in a fantasy world is what some people say to me. You live in a fantasy world. You know, it's money that's going to talk about here. That's all right. I think this is a real world I in. You know, one guy said to me, well, you know, man out here hungry, you don't know that? I said, but this is St. George, boss. And if a man out here hungry and use the L down the block, that means we have to have a conversation because something going wrong. Because I see breadfruit trees all around me, and we need to work now on how we can plan and build so people are not hungry. And then you don't ask me for food though, you ask me for drinks. Because it's the culture that because somebody coming around running for office to go out buy drinks. And I'm not saying that there's something wrong with drinks, it's a way of socializing and stuff like that, but there's that demand that just because you hear this is what politicians before you used to do. But no, though, I really want to talk about your child, your parenting, you know, I want to talk about that kind of things. Let me have a conversation about that here.
All right, well, I will give my disclaimer as well, because Heru is a long-term family friend. I've learned a lot about health from Heru, so I give him a lot of credit where that is concerned. And we've also had a history where we don't always see eye to eye on every topic, but we've always been able to maintain that respect for each other regardless of whatever our beliefs are. So I have a lot of respect for Heru as a person. I'm now having to learn about Heru as a candidate because I've realized that sometimes that's be two completely different people. So I hearing you with the conversation. I don't agree with everything because I have found that if a politician does this amount of good, it is going to be known. The media is going to be called in. People are going to be aware. So I don't think that politicians don't communicate well in terms of if they've done something good. The problem I have is the communication when things do not go well. Because there's a lack of communication as to the hard work that you say goes into a lot of the things they do. There's a lack of communication as to why things are not working in Barbados. And there's this pass the potato blame game that goes on instead of saying, I am the one that's in power, so this is what has to be done. And maybe it's that you're not aware of the right communication channels. Maybe it's that you don't have the training to be able to say or handle the public where these things are concerned. But a lot of things are held to the chest. They're secret. Public can't know this. And then you wonder why the public has to hold on to rumors and false information to be able to fill in the blanks.
Yes,
so there's a lack of respect.
Culture. It's entrenched within the institutions.
So that's why I was concerned when I heard how the conversation started, because I wasn't sure if that culture of, you know, you can't completely blame politicians was going to continue. But I am hoping that there is going to be a change in terms of when the ball is dropped, because the ball will be dropped if y'all got into power. That is an inevitability. But how it is handled when it is dropped is what will make the difference.
Yeah. I mean, I totally feel you. Again, I can't speak for the other two parties, and I think that's one of the good things about me being here now.
One of the reasons why you're here.
One of the reasons why you're here. We stay clean.
Clean hands, pure heart too.
Right.
It's also one of the reasons why I decided not to join one of the other parties. Not to say that things haven't happened in both administrations that were beneficial to the public, but there are things that are known to not be beneficial as well. I do agree. I think, like you said, when good things are happening, you know, the media follows and you highlight all this stuff. Bad things are happening. What I've seen, which is poor leadership, there's been no step up and say, but listen, we thought we had this here solved, but we gotta go back to the drawing board. Bear with us, people. If any of y'all got ideas that can help me fix this here, because we really button in the, you know, let me see who can help and come forward. So the public has been left out of the management of the country over the years. That's been my experience, you know. And then you hear a lot, and I can only speak to hearing a lot about all the studies that are being done and all the different, to help inform how certain institutions or sectors function, but then the studies are swept under the table or pushed back and not given the chance to see light.
Not implemented.
And not implemented. So we have implementation deficit. These are things that I'm well aware of, that I've heard of. I'm hoping, and I don't think, based on how we've set up our governance manifesto, which I know we don't really want to talk about all that stuff, but is full transparency. So there's a portal that you log on and you see everything that's happening as it relates to the management of the country.
Talk a little bit about the manifesto, though. Talk about a little bit what the UPP is offering that is different.
That's different, correct.
Well, I think the what drew me to the UPP was the movement to govern from the ground up, a people-centered movement. That's what I was attached to. When the UPP launched the New Economy Manifesto, so we launched the New Economy Manifesto, the Governance Manifesto, and then the City Manifesto, which is then it actually has a full manifesto for the city. So there are ideas for the city to transform the city. We have the Green Manifesto come in. There's a Social Service Manifesto. So there's all these different manifestos that are being worked on as we speak. One of them, which is very important, which I think is the New Economy Manifesto, which looks at creating a different sector and actually giving it a heading and allocating resources to the creative sector. And we find that that's one way we can diversify the economy to generate more resources. Now, I'm not the economist within the group, but the economists within the group and the researchers within the group have found that they can generate somewhere around $3 billion into the economy from just taking a small chunk of that creative sector. That's looking at music industry, fashion, software development, copywriting, all of these, and putting it under one umbrella and just facilitating it through government portals to make sure then that we can sell our services to the world, sell our creativity to the world, and actually have resources that's put to it, and have, as you know, Lynette, the leader of the party, she was very, she was running the international business sector, and she has spoken towards the same foundation that we use to build the international business sector is what we then use to promote the creative economy. So that's one way in terms of helping to bring some money into the country. Then there is the Governance Manifesto, which looks at how we would change up some of these current structures to ensure that people have a voice within the society. So ensure that the NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and charitable organizations actually have access to government property, for meetings and stuff like that. If you want to have a meeting, you have access. It's your property anyway, taxpayers' dollars. So you have access to those things, making sure that they have the support, making sure that that's connected to the Prime Minister's office, and that those organizations would have, I think it's meetings, monthly meetings, or meetings every 6 months with the elected officials to help advance their causes, to help strengthen their governance, and so that they can get into the communities then to do the work that they were created to do. Because we do have a lot of charitable organizations that offer some really good services to the society, but they need, a lot of times they don't have grant writing support, they don't have the support in terms of resources to be able to carry out their work. And so we feel like it is our responsibility, if we're in government, to make sure that all of these NGOs, once they've gone through the training processes and they meet the protocols that they need to meet to ensure that they can effectively run, then they need to have access to the resources of the taxpayers to carry out their duties, and that's one way we can help to make sure that
fund NGOs out of taxpayer dollars
and help them in their development. So they get a subvention, but they also get support for writing their grants, support for managing. So they get training so they can manage their different portfolios within the organization properly, whether it's accounting or whatever the case is, so that they can carry out their responsibilities within the community. Because we recognize that the only way forward is to strengthen communities. That's the only way forward. You gotta be able to scout the creative genius within communities, and who's going to do that? The people in the communities and those organizations that are set up within the communities to see who are the Rihannas or the DJ Puffys or whoever else within these communities.
The big issue that everyone talks about is the economy, and the argument is, will come, how you gonna pay for all this because the country ain't got no money? How how everybody want to know like, how you gonna fix the economy.
So
you can't do that unless you got money, and we can't drink on the money.
So we know that right now for tourism, there is a significant amount of money that's put into marketing Barbados as a tourist destination right now. Our proposal is to cut that by $5 million and put it into those sectors and those areas that we need to now develop. And the beautiful thing about the creative economy is that it doesn't need infrastructure. You don't need to go and build big hotels and stuff. I mean, right now we're in somebody's apartment. You know, all we need is the equipment and the creative genius of the people. Some people could just stay at home in their bedroom and create applications and games and stuff right in their homes. But they need to know that there's a support. You know, just yesterday I did an interview with a young man who said to me he had the prototype for a cell phone, Barbadian manufactured and created, you know, and was ready to get it launched. But funding. And when he said how much money it would have taken, I kind of laughed. I was like, I think he said between $5,000 to $7,000 or something, or $15,000. And I was like, what? That's all it takes?
That's all right.
It was.
That's the price of the cell phone.
No, that was the price to get the project launched and have the prototypes built.
Okay.
With getting the parts and everything shipped in, and then the training for the. You know, he just mentioned this to me yesterday. And so that alone in itself is something that's worthy of support. But you know, he met with this buddy, met with that buddy, but there was this dance around him. So there are a lot of creative people within Barbados who need that support. So the $5 million, as you were asking, how do we get this money? The $5 million that's being shifted from tourism into this sector, that helps to offset some of the issues there in terms of funding. Lynette has spoken about looking at, because we know that right now, financially, economically, there's a crisis. Everybody knows this. You know, foreign reserves are down. There are bills that need to be paid, debts that need to be paid, and there are no little debts. You know, there are $1 million debts that's coming up that needs to be met, and we need to be in negotiations with international firms. We've spoken about the IMF. Without fear, you know, it's not politically sound to speak about IMF. People think that, oh gosh, the world is going to come to an end. But in terms of their interest rates and the level of discipline that has to be applied, is something that we need.
The IMF is something that we need?
No, I'm not saying the IMF is something. The IMF is an option. You know, there's some things unfortunately...
It's a legitimate option.
It's a legitimate option, but unfortunately there's some things that you can't say when you're not in government because of how governance is practiced right now.
People have built up a fear for the IMF. So as long as you say those words, people throw their minds back to the days of Sandy and the 8% cut and horrible things happened, and the reality of it was something they just didn't want to endure.
Right.
So as soon as people hear that, and the circumstances that we are right now are far worse than when we went to the IMF the first time. So persons understandably have a fear. Right. But it is the same fear a child has when they hear they have to take medicine.
Right. So the thing is that, like I was saying, because of how governance is practiced, we don't know all the details as to where our money is and what our money needs to go to, because it's
you don't know what you can see if you were to get into office.
Pretty much, which is a kind of a problem because we need to know. The public needs to know.
Public should know.
Does not know though.
Right, it's true.
Because even I think it was this morning actually, or yesterday morning, I was listening to the radio and I was hearing the Minister of Finance talking about how he don't see there being a problem with the fact that the foreign reserves are down. Things are still being done. Bills are still being paid. XYZ is still happening. So,
but you know how not,
and that's literally how he ended it.
But you know how not for you and Jeremy Stevens and some of these other activists out there, and you know, people wouldn't even know what the foreign reserves is really and truly. The average person walking the street and really checking for that.
The Minister of Finance has more credibility than a me or a Jeremy or anybody else because of their position in itself. So when the average person hears a minister saying that 5 weeks of our reserves is not a problem and that the banks didn't have a problem with it, which is not necessarily true because they had to give it their foreign reserves kicking and screaming. Nobody wants to just give up foreign exchange just like that, which is the only reason we're at 5 weeks right now.
Right. Yeah.
But when you hear these things, it's difficult to be able to say, okay, if this is what he's saying, what is the real position that we're going to be getting ourselves into? Do we have a plan in case it is much worse than is actually purported?
Right. So we did say that we would, consider the IMF and there are other international agencies that we can consider to get some resources from, and to try to find a way to plug some of the holes and then rebuild. So in the process of plugging, we have to build. We have to grow the economy, and taxes is not the answer. The economy has to grow. All the sectors and all the ministries have to be responsible in making sure that there's growth within those ministries. So you should have growth within the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Tourism. So these ministries need to have some growth coming in as well. They're like mini businesses within the business of government.
You're saying politicians in these ministries ain't doing nothing?
That's pretty much what's happening. They're not running the ministries the way they need to be run, and that's unfortunate. That's what it seems like. I'm not there, but that's what it seems like to me.
There are two non-financial issues that I think sometimes contribute just as heavily to the fact that we don't have any money. There's this ease of doing business issue.
Correct.
The number of people who message and tell me how much months it took just to get a license to do a business, or how much months it took to do this month. So all that time you sit here, know you're losing money in that.
Right. We put that in our governance manifesto, uppbarbados.org, which is information technology, using the computer systems to ensure that the ease of doing business can be significantly
you buying these computer systems with money that you get from...
You know that there are people here in Barbados who develop software. I actually had the opportunity to meet one gentleman the other day who I was using the software from the States, who actually build softwares for all types of institutions across Barbados, all types of businesses. So the potential is here. They're just not given the support.
So you think the technology will help to ease the issues that we have with everything?
And also helps with transparency.
Yeah.
Because there's less face-to-face and the protocols are more direct.
And then the other issue is the court system. I got enough issues, but the court system. I can't
answer all of them though.
Everyone's you can answer, because it's okay to say don't know.
Right.
I would rather somebody say they don't know than to make up an answer and give me a lot of BS, because I can't work with that.
No, I agree with you. I had a situation I was dealing with today with the residents of my constituency, St. George North, who are dealing with a stench coming from this dump that has been set up. And while I was talking to the chief environmental officer about the condition on behalf of the people of St. George North who are suffering from this, some of the responses were literally, yes, there's a court case pending. And it's been going on for a while now. So then I said, well, can we have a timeline that I can at least let people know when they're going to have a chance to breathe again? And the response was like, well, I can't say. I said, well, is it going to take another year or another year and a half? Because people literally are inhaling stench and can't go to their homes, can't open up windows and stuff like this. So there were several issues that I would have picked up within that conversation that shows me that, one, our ministries are not functioning the way they're supposed to. There were things that she said to me, and I don't know if I want to talk about it in totality here, but there were things that she said to me which made me, it was very clear that we have a high level of mediocrity within our ministries that need to be fixed.
That is why people will say politicians ain't doing nothing, because if you wake up in the morning and it stinks, you go home at night from work and it stinks, then you wake up again. Now here's the problem, whereas lies the other problem. Smelling it is one thing, developing medical conditions is a whole other thing. Because if you consistently keep smelling stuff like that, you know eventually something inside can decide that, look, nah, that ain't for me.
So for me, being a health activist, and having to, because I drive through my constituency and I get a whiff of it, and I have to think about the children who live close enough who are whiffing it every day, and I know that every time you smell something, it mixes into the blood, and it changes the chemistry of the body. So for me, I was very angry in trying to get this resolved, even beyond just politics, because when somebody burns stuff above my house, I just really feel upset. I just go looking for them. You know what I mean? But then to sit in an office where these people are supposed to be in charge, I didn't sit with the minister. I sat with those responsible, but I didn't sit with the minister. But sat with them and hear. They know what a potential resolution could be. But the only body who can advise that was the minister. And my question was, well, why isn't the minister advising this? Are we going to wait for somebody to die or for it to leave a stain on the residents for a period of time, whether it's some sort of respiratory ailment that now is, people dying from whatever, cancer or whatever because they inhale this stuff. I even asked for an air quality test today. Can we do an air quality test? And I was told that we don't have the equipment here to do it. But then I reckon, and this wasn't somebody who was willfully telling me this thing. This was poor communication between ministries, because then there's the equipment is here. It's just not within this ministry, but there's other Ministry of Labor and other. So this is
the frustrations you have to deal with.
This is why I started to get upset earlier, because I get annoyed with conversations where people say that the problem is Bajans or the Bajan public or Bajan people this or Bajan people that. And yes, the politicians come from amongst us, so they are a reflection of us. That is true. But you have people who really want to do a good job, but when the people in leadership are not doing what is necessary to facilitate that is
job
true. Being done.
That is true. Because in honesty, this is no badness to her, because I felt like she was really literally trying to help. She entertained me. She gave me an audience. But you can sense in the conversation she could only say so much, or and I don't know what's going on at the other tiers. So I agree with you.
There's one of the laws they want change, right? That I feel that if people that work in the government institutions are supposed to be able to speak freely when they see things going on.
Standing orders.
That law that they had over, I would like to say something. But if I tell you,
orders
if people check now, people would normally think that they would hear me say something, like, oh, we know that. But I try to keep it on a borderline where as it don't push too far over the fence, right? Sometimes these people would tell me things, I'm like, you serious? I'm like, yeah, like, or you could say it because part of it was in the newspaper, so they might probably think you get a whiff of the scent of it in the newspaper, but they can't speak their mind.
So we need
or they're going to be victimized. That's wrong.
We need a cultural revolution. And I totally agree with you, Farai. There should be no limits in what these elected officials can. These not elected officials, but the public servants can say, because they are here to serve the people, and we are the employers, And so we shouldn't have to worry about. I remember I was listening to something recently, and they were talking about the sale of our assets, and the way the minister would have spoken about it was almost like, I can't say right now. I mean, you're selling my property. You can't tell me what you have.
Correct.
What's going on here? So the cultural shift is to bring more awareness to the public, but then there needs to be the political institution that empowers the public to be aware of these things, so they can hold them accountable.
Yeah, man.
So without a doubt, you got to be able to, and that's where transparency comes in, and where it's no longer, I go call a friend of mine who know a friend and who know a friend and this and that, and it can happen through the back door. It's no longer that.
Now, the need for this cultural shift is why I support the new political parties, because I'm not convinced that the traditional parties have will have the sense of urgency to make that political shift. Because as Farai was saying earlier in an earlier conversation, there's a sense of, we can play musical chairs, this political thing, and do the merry-go-round thing, and one leave, another one come in, and then, every two periods, 2 terms, a new party come, the shift. So I feel like the new political parties have a role in pressuring the old parties to, as you say, change how they operate.
Certainly.
And make it not business as normal. But there are people out there who are like, man, third party is a waste of time in Barbados.
Right.
I think one columnist actually called them nuisances.
Right.
Yep.
How you feel when you hear that?
I understand it. I understand it. I mean, if you're, as we would say, several years ago, people would say that, black people will never be free, and to even think about freedom is an issue. But the landscape has to be broken into, and I think it's honorable that there are many people now in society who are stepping up to their civic responsibility. Even if they don't have the depth in some cases, at least they're recognizing that this, because when you sit down and hear the new parties, and I'll be honest with you, they bring really good discussion to the table. They change the landscape of what's going on or what has been going on in traditional draft board politics, which is what I would love to see. So I expect the pundits and the other people to say these things. It's expected.
Is there any fear on your part that all you might be doing is taking votes away from the opposition and giving the government in power a fighting
the opportunity
chance?
to get back in?
No, I'm here to win my seat. I'm here to sell myself to the public. I'm here to let the people that I am advocating on behalf of know that I want to do something on behalf of my people, on behalf of my constituency. So that's why I'm here. Now, people will vote how they choose to vote at the end of the day. But that has nothing to do, that's I can't change that. And I am not going to speculate of how it's going to turn out. But I can say that I'm here to do my very best to engage the people that I knock on their doors and let them know, listen, here's our policies, here's our manifesto, here's who I am, why I'm here, and I hope you can see the need for a progressive future, and I hope that you would join me in this movement to transform our society.
And sorry, go ahead.
So to theorize on whether or not it's going to help the DLP get back in power, that's not why I'm here. Actually, it's the reverse why I'm here. We don't want to see no more bad leadership, and we don't want to see that level of disdain for the people that we are witnessing right now under any of the administrations. So that's the reason why we're here. Hopefully the public would get the opportunity to help to advance that cause.
And I can't let you leave without addressing the claim that the UPP is an anti-Mia Motley party.
Well, I guess what you have within, from the little that I understand, many people within parties shift around. Even the same Mia was in another party at one point. Barrow came out, the DLP came out of the DLP came out of the BLP. Barrow was in the BLP before. People who can't get what they see as priorities within the institution that they're in and who've decided to shift, I think it's honorable if they decided to create something different, because they can't get to see what they want to see happen within the institution that they're in. I would understand it to be a political message in terms of people saying, well, they're like, people say there are a couple messages. We are funded by the DLP. People say, like, really? Seriously? We're here to get the DLP out of office. This is why we are formed. This is why we offer ourselves as an option. I can't speak to the hate Mia thing. I really don't know anything about hating Mia. It's not what called me into the party. As a matter of fact, I have nothing against Mia, to be quite honest with you. What called me into the party was clean hands. We don't have a history. We're not in that Auditor General report. We ain't there. You can't find us there. You can't point to us there and say, look what the UPP do, or look what Lynette Eastman do or didn't do within that. So that for me gives me a clean start. So people will say whatever they choose to say.
But even that, though, no. Again, this is what you're hearing.
That's fine.
Even that, people saying, the country in crisis, knowing the time to get it out of yours.
Exactly. That's why we have Lynette. When the $300 million was coming into the economy from the international business sector, that was led by Lynette. That wasn't led by anybody else right now within the Barbados Labour Party. Right now we're in an economic crisis. We need people who can actually negotiate. When there were negotiations that needed to be done with the OECD as it relates to blacklisting, not only just Barbados, but several other countries within the territory, it was Lynette that was sent. She was the one who did that. So I agree. We need people who can negotiate on behalf of the people. So that's why we have Lynette, and that's why we want the UPP to be a part of that. Nobody else within the other institutions were there. None of the other leaders in my opinion, have a track record as Lynette has.
No.
So then there are other. So the issue now, like you would say, well, we have at least 4 members in our party who were ex-parliamentarians, who've already had the experience of parliament, right? So if we didn't have any, it would have been a problem when it's an experience. We have a few, but the few you have was already in another administration. Well, of course, we've only had 2 administrations for the longest time. So that's it. So we do have the experience, as it relates to that. And I'm looking forward to that opportunity as well.
I can try to be as quick as possible because it was something that Adrian kind of started it.
Mm-hmm.
You had a candidate that, and I completely agree with how Lynette handled it, because if a candidate is going to spew views that go against what the party stands for, they should be dealt with. And how she decided to deal with it, I thought was fair. Then you have another candidate that made disparaging remarks against someone from another political party. I don't even think an apology was issued.
I am not sure about that.
The Maria Agar comments,
Oh, uh-huh.
you don't think that she should have at least issued an apology for the distasteful comments that were made? Regardless of who they were made against, it doesn't matter if it was another political candidate or a human being on the street.
I used to watch these videos. There's a video that was circulating around Facebook and social media where they had this little bony fella that was beating up this fat dude. And the fat dude just flipped one day and lift you up and slam you in the ground, and everybody was like, yeah, that's what bullies get. Right?
And you think that's the analogy you want to use?
The analogy that I'm using, that from what I understood of this comment, it was done on a personal platform. It had nothing to do with policy. And when people are bullied consistently, they can flip because we're dealing with people. All you had to do was to check back through that thread, check back through that personal view, and recognize the level of bullying that was happening. And somebody went to a gunfight with a penknife. I can't make a claim or disclaimer for what happened there. I know nothing about it. But I'm not going to sit here and say that something that happened on a private person's private page requires that level of approach. I don't know. They would have to deal with that.
All right. So let me just get this right.
Yeah, they would have to deal with that.
You do know. Not you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But here's my thing. And I don't want to put you in this thing. But here's my thing. Because if people say it's Bayesian for when they're doing certain things they shouldn't be doing on the internet. The internet means I still in control of it. The internet didn't type them words. Because when they see it, I was like, nah, this someone mimicking.
Correct.
Somebody do this here and there's an edit. Mom was like, no, it was actually said.
And I think the public has
she wasn't speaking to the actual person that she made the comments about. She was actually speaking to somebody else.
But I don't know who she made the comments about. I think what has happened is that people have made their outcry heard, and how they handle it is how they handle it. I can't speak on behalf of that.
The reason I had an issue...
It wasn't a policy of the UPP. It wasn't a UPP platform. I can't speak on it.
The reason I had an issue with it is because UPP is one of the parties that I expected to be different. I respect Lynette and how she carries herself, and I expected it of the candidates that she has. So regardless of the gutter politics that's come from the other parties, I had UPP on a certain pedestal.
But we can't put it on you.
But I ain't putting it all on you. I'm not putting it all on you.
Can't put it on you.
I'm putting it on the leader and the candidate that made the comment, because I don't care what the other candidates did.
Right.
I put UPP as this particular party that got this level of respect for themselves and their opponents and operate a certain way.
What I would say, though, Crystal, what I would say is that my man here is a real quick learner, because that's a real political answer that he no put down. That's a real smooth political answer he no put down. But I understand where you're coming from in that, the people feel like, man, we tired of.
I tired of the gutter politics. I saw Lynette as one that don't be in the gutter.
And we want
Yeah,
a party.
I was let
We
down.
want a group that we can say, but they're above the level
Correct.
that,
Of the gutter
that we
politics.
expected before. And so I understand your disappointment.
I have followed Maria's contributions in Parliament, and I felt like she has offered a significant amount of proper
To make up for the comments that she made.
This is part of the culture that we have right now.
That I thought y'all were here to change.
She got to be above it.
Exactly.
Like, not to cut you, but for
I
instance,
agree with you.
After knowing you, Heru, I know that, but you know me as a Casper, so but
Right.
I still won't swing that rope.
But listen,
Even so, they know, knowing you as an aspiring politician, I want to get into it now. I would never ever, right? And it's weird or not because we here in the ballroom, but I would never expect to hear that kind of. Somebody would come and say, "Well, you hear what Heru said?" He said, "I was like, hell no,
Correct.
not the
This is
Heru
why
that
I
I
said
know."
Heru
You mean
the friend and Heru the politician?
It's
different
supposed to be a wide gap. You're supposed to know that. Look, I ain't gonna get on that road in order to get my thing across. I know far ain't even gonna do it. So if I them to call me the Casper and says always got somebody and tell somebody.
If you met far right, jaw drop, you know.
Like, when that come on, I was like, wow.
Yep.
Like that's a knee shot. That's way below the belt.
Right.
Which wasn't called for as far as I see. It was like certain things I hear people tell me certain like, oh, you gotta learn to speak, but like it, and me to go somewhere like, or your father and your mother was out in the sheep pen or something, I would still feel that that's too strong of a response for something like that. Like you got somebody got already say something bad, but me to really step that low.
But it speak to what we expect, or what people calling for from a new party, you know. And so really and truly, the public may hold UPP to a standard above.
Right, they got
Correct.
right. Like, I really like I know him,
Especially after how the other candidate was dealt with. 'Cause I thought, okay, this candidate messed up. She dealt with it, and she made it clear that this kind of behavior is not tolerated. So I thought that would apply.
This is apples and oranges, and there are things that have happened.
I am just saying that how she handles.
But I think it is not. There are two different situations totally. And if you're in management and leadership, you will realize that there are two different situations. What people haven't done is actually go back and watch Lynette's video where she outlined the step by step as to what really happened, and you would realize.
You mean with Charleston or with Maria?
With Charleston.
And
so
I saw that video, and
you would realize
I was
that
there for her.
As
I
people
agreed
would
with
have
it.
said, the statement had little to do with anything.
So you were talking about Charleston.
So you can't mix the two of them. They're two different
What I'm
things
saying
altogether.
is how she dealt with the Charleston situation. I thought was well done.
Okay.
Everything about it was handled properly. Is a breach that happened with a candidate and how it was dealt with. I applaud.
Right.
Then you have another breach, and it feels as though how it was dealt with.
feel the same old.
Like
For instance, like somebody was the speaker of the house. Needed
There
to
you
say
go.
more. And the elderly gentleman had to fight in court to get his money. And he's the speaker of the house. He's the man telling people, okay, we'll have a seat now, it's somebody else's turn. So when they turn on my TV and they see you and they studying, wait, hold up, I can't get past the fact that this old man on crutches can hardly walk and you locking off your money.
Right.
And it gotta go court in order for you to get your money. When you went court, they get the money. That should be the first step. It shouldn't be no, it was holding the money to do this or whatever fee or whatever. No. There's no site there. Like, I can't give you a pass.
So we trying to work harder up anything. And I know that these are the little issues that would then take away from the bigger picture.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it happens. I'm still here that people are people. People need to aspire to be bigger and better. And I totally support that 100%. As it relates to how the situation is managed, I really can't say anything to that. I do know that these people have been, there are issues that happened in the situation before I was involved, and I can't speak to
Because
it. Because
also you're not being authorized to speak on that behalf of that part. So I can respect that. Don't put your hand in the mouth for the phone to please the boy, yeah? you good with me.
Yeah.
That is good. You understand?
That's just what it is. I can't speak on it.
Just know you're St. George. Be alright. St. George, he be alright.
We gotta up the thing, and it is across the board. We have to improve on the messages that we give to our young people. We have to improve on how we interact with the society in general, and we have to bring ideas, and no longer should we be bringing all this little battle, because it feeds into emotions and negativity. We need to really bring ideas, and we need to work towards changing the dynamics of our society. And that's why I'm here.
Right.
That's why the UPP is here.
Don't have people saying, you see what they make the same thing.
Correct.
Yeah, well, you will hear that.
Look.
Correct.
You will
That's
hear
not
that.
a good look.
You will hear that, and it's understandable, and people have the right to express how whether they like it or dislike it. I think that's important, and I don't feel bad when a person say that they dislike something that happened. I think we all need to really have an opportunity to explore things on a bigger spectrum. So that's why I can sit here, even though I feel what you feel about politicians, I can still sit here and revise my position, recognize what we have accomplished as a nation, from where we have come from, where we are, know very well that we should be way further, but also not disregard the fact that we've come from here and we're here as well. So we need to consistently be able to revisit our ideas about the world and our ideas about even this whole political arena. And if we don't do it, then we're going to continue to create young people who will remove themselves from the institution. And that's an issue. We need more people involved.
And with that, this has been another episode of The Boiler Room. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our show. We've had Everton Heru Holligan of the United Progressive Party, my co-host, who is up in the thing.
Up in the thing.
Yeah.
My co-host, Crystal Howell, and Bejan Farai. Farai, got anything to say to carry out?
One thing though, he learned the punches well, he learning how to cover up.
Stick and move, baby, stick and move.
But Heru, I wish you all the best. Like I said, get Google Maps. But you know what I mean? Yo, for real, man. It's a matter of respect. So you know what I mean? I know you'll be in. Like I said, don't be like the West. Ain't a good luck.
Right.
That's all as much as they gotta say.
But
So,
I want to be like the rest who have done great work.
good point.
Because
good point. Let that be your slogan.
Who have done great work.
Let that be your slogan. So people will understand where you're coming from. Real talk.
Oh.
And bad.
Done
talk.
Boom.